The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power into creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. Boy, oh boy, are we going to have ourselves a show this week, viewers and listeners. You should know I am fresh off of a vacation. I mean, fresh off a vacation. I mean, the plane just landed. I got in Miami traffic, sat in Miami traffic forever and ever, got into my house in the nick of time, just had enough time to take a very quick shower and shave off my vacation beard so I could be here Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern for Break the Business, and there's nowhere else I'd rather be. I'm really, really thrilled to be here with y'all and really thrilled to be joined by our guest co-host this week. Elisa Rockdock is here. Hi, Elisa.
How you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. Although I will say my vision of what my vacation to Cancun was going to be. Cancun, right? Think of everything that Cancun is, right? The sandy beaches, the bottomless drinks, the just crystal blue waters, unlimited sunshine, pure rest, relaxation, and ecstasy in the way that only Cancun can provide. And now imagine all of that with an 18-month-old joining you on the journey.
See, there's where you might have goofed.
What the hell was I thinking, Rock Doc? I mean, don't get me wrong. We got so many amazing pictures of this little guy standing in the sand and, enjoying the water, having a great time. And what you don't see in any of the pictures is just what it means to have to parent an 18-month-old while you're on vacation, and there's no sleep happening, and there's lots of diaper changes happening. And while it was an unforgettable trip, and I love it and treasure it, it's not what you're supposed to do in Cancun by any means.
Y'all got beaches there?
Yeah.
But take them to a beach there.
We should have. I mean, and don't get me wrong, we do. But I mean, yeah, there was very little relaxing happening. I think, I'm torn, right? Because on one hand, it was really special. And there's something about seeing your kid enjoy things and experience things for the first time. And it's you experiencing them all over again. Those are priceless memories. On the other hand, it was a 4-night vacation. I slept maybe 5 hours total. And not for a good reason.
Not the fun way.
Yeah, not the fun way. Not the fun way you're supposed to only get 5 hours of sleep in Cancun. The 18-month-old deciding right now to go through the sleep regression stage while you're on vacation. But it is good to be back and to be joined by you, Elisa Rockdock. How are you doing on our first Thursday show here on Break?
Oh my gosh. Well, happy new moon, by the way. For any creatives out there who are looking for an excuse to be I'm just going to hit the reset button on those resolutions that I might have fallen off on. If you are going to hit the reset button on that, I would say as a practicing witch and doctor's orders, you are perfectly allowed to hit the reset button on all of those resolutions today in honor of the full moon. Start over. Just start over.
So, well, help me understand this. So because of of where the new moon is in the calendar, we all get kind of a second crack at resolutions here in the second week of January if we feel so inclined. I like this.
Yeah, and I would argue if you are the kind of person who likes to reinvent yourself very frequently, I would say going by the moon cycles is great. You get a whole new era every 2 to 4 weeks. So.
I like this because I, like many people do on New Year's Eve, made a resolution that I was going to get into better shape and made that resolution right before going to an all-inclusive resort in Cancun,
See,
where I
that's
ate
also
my
where you
body
goofed.
weight in pastries.
Also where you goofed.
So I kind of like the idea of being able to start again. Okay, starting now, we're going to get ourselves together. I
Now.
like this. I like
Yeah.
this a lot.
Yeah.
What I also like a lot, Rock Doc, is this particular episode of Break the Business is kind of like a revisiting for you and I, because 11 months ago, we had a guest on the program named Alan Jenkins, a professor at Harvard Law School. And unlike most law professors that just mainly give Ryan anxiety, bringing back all kinds of horrible memories of being in law school, Alan Jenkins is a cool dude.
Yeah.
Because in addition to being a Harvard law professor, which is awesome, he's also a graphic novelist and has put out the 1/6 series. This is a graphic novel series that imagines an alternate history where the January 6th attacks on the Capitol succeeded. Really powerful, thought-provoking stuff. We interviewed Professor Jenkins 11 months ago on the show when he put out issue number 1, and he's going to be rejoining us again tonight with the release of issue number 2. So we get to keep that conversation going, raise our IQ a bit by having him joining us. And I mean,
Raise the taste level
Yeah.
of this joint just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I feel like we gotta we gotta like clean up around here a little bit. I mean, this is a Harvard law professor here. He's not going to suffer through our shenanigans, I would
No.
hope. I mean, maybe comb our hair a little bit. But I mean that interview blew you away when we did that
That was
11 months ago,
wonderful.
right? Like,
Absolutely.
Just-
It was a treat.
and
It was an
I
absolute
felt
treat.
like of the three of us, like you and him, I think were kind of like carrying this interview because you were bringing the sociologist perspective and the impact of comics and pop culture throughout history. So you two had a great discussion. I was just like kind of sitting there hiding under a rock, actually thinking of the possibility of January 6th succeeding and being like very freaked out. And, it was quite an interview. I encourage people to go check that one out.
Yes.
If you haven't checked it out, and you can enjoy this one as we do it later in the show.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. I'd lots happened in 11 months. So I'm
I
looking
know that's
forward
the
to this
other thing. So,
perspective.
I mean, in the past 11 months, right, we've had 91 counts worth of Trump indictments, and we've had the primary campaign starting. And I'm going to bring this up with Alan Jenkins when he comes in because I want to get his perspective on it. I feel like 11 months ago, the idea of a novel where January 6th succeeded was just like, oh, haha, wouldn't that be interesting? And now here we are 11 months later, like, oh my God, are we predicting something with this novel? Because a lot's happened in 11 months. I'm nervous.
Definitely looking forward to whether or not there has been an extensive revision situation happening. Yeah, looking forward to that.
I mean, I'm kind of wondering if, like, is he afraid at this point, like when you put out these kind of novels, like that he's giving these people a playbook? Like they're reading his novels, like we're all reading them and being appropriately horrified. Those people are reading the novels being like, oh, he's got some good ideas in here.
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't think I'm going to add that to the list.
I'm going to call it Soylent. That sounds like a wonderful idea.
All right. Well, before we get into that, before we bring in Professor Jenkins and have what I'm sure is going to be a equal parts thought-provoking and terrifying discussion with an amazing law professor and also indie creator, wanted to talk to you about a piece of news that came in, I think, just yesterday as we were recording this that like directly implicates folks in your line of work at Lisa Rock Doc. You were the first person I thought of. In fact, when this story came in, the first thing I did was I looked at the co-host rotation. I was like, who's coming on this week? Oh, thank God it's Elisa Rock Doc, just the person we need to talk to. Because when we have news that's about SAG-AFTRA and voiceovers, and most importantly, video game voiceovers, the idea that we get to have Tyrene Calypso from the Borderlands series talk to us about this story. Oh, I mean, powerful stuff. Let me catch everybody up. So here's what happened. On January 9th, SAG-AFTRA, the union that represents the screen actors, the TV radio artists, they announced an agreement with artificial voice technology company Replica Studios to permit Replica to engage SAG-AFTRA members to create digital replicas of the performer's voice to use in video game development and other interactive media projects. In a statement supporting the deal, SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher applauded the deal as being, quote, a great example of AI done right. And by the way, every time we do a SAG-AFTRA story where we quote Fran Drescher, it takes all the effort in the world for me not to imitate the nanny.
This is one of those crushing scenes. As this is one of those crushing scenes. That is what's happening.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, the union is contending that this deal contains meaningful protections for union VO artists, including consent procedures for creating digital voice replicas, as well as the ability for performers to opt out of continued uses once they've opted in. However, a sizable contingent of voiceover artists, including, I'm assuming, Elisa Rock Dog, if I can infer anything from her body language here, have come out in opposition to this deal. Many union performers have stated on social media that they did not know about, much less a vote to approve the replica deal, contrary to the union's claims that the deal was, quote, approved by affected members of the union's voiceover performer community. Some performers have contended that digital replicas will take job opportunities away from VO artists in the video game industry. You sound thrilled about all of this, Elisa Rock Dog.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared that it is taking all of me to not drop so many F-bombs that this episode becomes unusable. But here's the thing. Full disclosure, I am non-union. I work in the state of Texas. When I did Tyrene Calypso, I was non-union then. And a couple of other complications there, being an employee of Gearbox at the time as well. So I don't know a lot of the inner workings as a, baby voice actor who's non-union about how these things work in terms of when information is disseminated out, what gets put up to a vote, what doesn't get put up to a vote. I don't know. I'm just going by every single one of my fellow voice actors that I happen to follow. There is no one who's stoked about this at all. Especially when they talk about informed consent. And I want to say that I read an article somewhere where it was like, but there's also loopholes for things like if they use your voice in something that's historical or like a documentary kind of thing, or parody or satire. And that
seems like a
me.
loophole you can drive a truck through.
Absolutely. Especially because I'm like, what are you parodying? What are you satiring? Like, I would love to have consent. Now, there's a lot said about taking jobs away from voice actors, but in particular, when it comes to video games and character acting, we like acting. We would like to do that more. We love our jobs and we would like to do them. And anything about AI being some sort of a cost-cutting measure, or maybe like democratizing voice acting so that other indie developers can maybe get their games off the ground. There are people willing to do this job for IMDb credit alone. You have no excuse. This is a budget problem. You goofed, and it makes me question your priorities if you use AI voice acting. You messed up in your budget somewhere where you didn't allot for paying artists to bring your art to life. That's on you, and I'm not buying your game. Straight up. Sorry, the finals. I really want to play you the finals, but you didn't have to do AI voice acting stuff. Really want to play you. Looks a lot like a lot of fun, and honestly, I would love to do some of those voice acting barks, etc. However, the big thing that I don't know if people are discussing enough that I realize is that as a character actress, if you license your voice out to AI and it gets put in any number of video games, you're kind of boning yourself on the secondary market that a lot of voice actors have with conventions and panel opportunities. Because how is somebody going to ask me, say somebody, let's in a hypothetical world that I pray does not exist. Let's say that they use my voice from Tyrene Calypso, right? And they make another DLC where Tyrene comes back and they stitch together a bunch of stuff. How am I going to feel when somebody asks me, "Oh, how was it acting in this thing? What was it like bringing this character to life?" I didn't. There isn't me in there. I would feel weird signing art, like fan art, for a character that I wasn't in the booth physically putting life to. Like, that feels so odd and wrong. There are people that are going, there are voice actors that are taking a stand and saying that they don't want to sign fan art or any kind of art of their video games that was created in AI. So this isn't even like just voice actors. We artists, like visual artists, actors, everybody has to come together about this, because artists are losing commissions on fan art because of AI. And it really messes up that secondary market, because how am I going to be like giving acting tips or have like, what is a panel about, voices of X game going to look like if they licensed out a bunch of AI? Now the argument is, oh, well, it's not going to be for like principal roles. It's going to be for a lot of like NPC barks and like take cover and like a lot of that stuff. How did we get our jobs in the first place? How did we get to voice principal characters in the first place? How do we get on the job training? How do we get director interaction? By doing those little barks.
Right. The roles that they are assuring us makes this all okay, because all we're replacing with AI are these NPC characters. You're saying these are the characters that are often the entry point for baby VO artists to get into the industry.
You are knocking out entry-level positions, and then for the majors, you're going to be asking potentially for experienced actors. Where do we get that experience, bro? Like, what's not clicking? And it's not like you're saving us any trouble, because the idea is like, oh, you can like license your voice out while you pursue other opportunities. I want to be in that booth.
This is the
You want to
opportunity.
be in that booth. This is the job. We get to play. We get to take direction. And also, not for nothing, but a lot of video game moments that are quotable, that people call some of the funniest moments in video game history, a lot of that is sometimes improv. So have fun with that AI, I guess. You don't get Handsome Jack eating pretzels and going, well, these pretzels suck, in the middle of the thing if Damian Clark isn't in the booth literally eating pretzels when he said that.
Wait, are you telling me that quote was improv?
Yeah, he was literally eating pretzels, and then he just said, these pretzels suck, into them, and it kept it, and it was brilliant. It was wonderful. Like things that I threw in as Tyrene, like throwing in the "ay bendito" as one of the barks, like that is a line that I threw in so that I could feel some sort of representation for myself. And other Puerto Ricans are coming at me in the DMs being like, I felt so seen and so represented because I heard that in a video game and I never thought I'd hear that in a video game. Have fun with your soulless art, AI folks.
Let me ask you about this. And, I hate to even hate to use the phrase devil's advocate, because God knows the devil doesn't need an advocate. But let me talk to you about one of the use cases that we're hearing uttered about using AI for NPCs, right? You play a video game like Skyrim. If you play it enough times, you're going to hear the phrase, I used to be an adventurer like you, but I took an arrow to the knee, like 10,000 times. You play a game like Madden Football, you're going to hear the same audio over and over by like if you complete a pass for 10 yards, and it makes the game like seem less dynamic, seem hackneyed. And so what these people are saying is we're going to use AI voiceover artists, and a platform like OpenAI to give players in a game authentic kind of creative experiences when interacting with NPCs, where you're going to hear different audio every single time you interact with an NPC, no matter how many times you play the game. And it could be a different experience with that character every single time you interact with them. And that's not something you could do with a real live human, because you couldn't possibly have a person in the studio long enough to record an infinite number of responses that a user could make to an NPC. Does that kind of, are you sympathetic to that argument at all?
No. I want shorter games with longer timelines that treat their people well. That's a budget issue. That's a scope issue. That's like, I pay people to come back in and do pickups. Pay
Oh yeah, that's fair.
writers to write more for them to say. And maybe you don't have to be like buying and selling a bunch of companies and laying off people. Maybe you could take some of those bonuses and like pay your employees to do like good work and good art, instead of, hopping on the next gravy train and like, screwing the reason that people even like these things, because of the humans that actually make them. As a sociologist who literally like championed the idea that like you can't just study video games as text, because these are rich things that are made by people over years, etc., you are eliminating some of the primary reasons why these things exist and why these things are impactful. And it is difficult for me to hear a justification for it that doesn't like come in through my ear and translate in as starve, maybe get a real job, I don't know, sorry. So I will not abide it personally.
Well,
there are so many of us that are so cheap and so available.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like, where is this like crisis of incredibly overpriced VO talent that has necessitated the employment of AI? Like, so I was surprised when I read SAG-AFTRA's statement, and they put in the statement, as we noted in the beginning of the story, that the deal was approved by the affected members of the union's voiceover performer community. I was like, that's interesting. So SAG-AFTRA like sent out a memo to all the VO artists represented by the union and said, hey, here's what we're going to do. And then they got overwhelming feedback saying, yes, we think this is a great idea. Go for it, Fran. And I was like, if that's true, that's pretty impressive. And then I saw on Twitter where overwhelmingly every VO artist I follow on Twitter was like, no, I was not consulted on this. So I think I got to the bottom of what the union means by this when they say that we got the approval of the affected members of the voiceover community. I think what happened here was that the SAG-AFTRA deal that they struck with the AMPTP originally with the movie and TV producers, buried within the reams of paragraphs and papers of that deal was a sentence about like the possibility that AI could be used with performers with the performer's consent. So they took from that and said, hey, it was in this AMPTP deal that the union members approved. And so thus we are going to say that any deal in the future, including one that's just only about AI performers in voiceovers, we're going to say that it was approved by the affected members of the community. The mental gymnastics to like, sort of like, when you ask your mom if you can stay out past 11 one night, and then like 3 weeks later, you stay out past 11 and say, hey, you told me it was okay this one time 3 weeks ago. I have the approval of the affected members of the mom community.
And look, I am a baby voice actor, relatively speaking. But if I am seeing such overwhelming distaste for it. And especially considering like just the journey of actors and how these roles tend to happen. I really would love to know who was in the room and if there was literally anybody that was like actually affected by this, making these decisions, because I feel like I don't know if they truly understand the potential implications, and I don't think we're being alarmist about it necessarily. Because in the society that we live in, profits are king, and we want to provide shareholder value, and none of that says anything about art, babe.
So going back to something you said earlier, to make sure I understand this before we move on to the next topic, you're of the view that you will not play any video game that has AI generated VO work in it.
Now, I say that, right? Now, there's room for nuance, and I would love the opportunity to learn more and soften my stance. I would love nothing more than to be softer than I currently am. This is not a rage I love to live in. So I would love to be able to soften my stance and be able to like see, if some of these use cases that are stated actually hold water and are actually really and truly necessary for the particular thing that you are trying to produce. I would love to hear that argument. However, that game had better be like that cost cutting measure or that time cutting measure or whatever it is, that had better result in the best video game I have ever played.
It better be like you need to be having like deep, thought-provoking conversations with these NPCs.
Baldur's Gate. Like this had better be a Tears of the Kingdom you're giving me,
because when you have AI replacing amazing performers, you miss out on some of these really incredible pieces of art that members of this community make, including Elisa Rockdock, who is here now to give us what I think is our most popular segment here at Break the Business. People love the Elisa Rockdock career update.
Oh, hush.
And so we have a few minutes here before we go to break and then bring on Alan Jenkins from Harvard Law School. So can you give us just a little bit about what's been going on with you and the many bookings you've had lately?
Yeah. So a note to anybody who is in an actor or like audition adjacent community: never despair, because your life can change in 24 to 72 hours. And it's very important to not only get ready, but stay ready so you don't got to get ready. Case in point, I love a job that will call me up at 11 a.m. and say, hey, are you available for some background work at 1 p.m.? Here's the rate. Here's the location. Can you make it by then? I'm like, yup. As I'm literally putting on my makeup to audition for something else. And that happened to be a Cologuard commercial that featured the one and only Dak Prescott, quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. I am Dallas-based. I'm Dallas-based, so it was very, awesome to be able to be a part of, at least go to the Dallas Cowboys practice facility to shoot it, which is super, super fun. And this was a commercial where I thought I was doing background work, and it was basically like yell at Dak Prescott, yell at him, yell some criticisms, like you're an angry football fan. And I'm like, well, as a Dolphins fan, hold on, let me get into character.
Yeah, real stretch.
Real stretch.
I had to research this role.
Incredibly against type. So that I thought that was going to be like a montage of like, I've heard a lot of criticisms, and like I thought I was going to be a blip in the background. And then it aired, and I started getting some tags. And I don't know if the video's queued up, but
yeah, producer Lauren, do we have this? I love this commercial, by the way.
As a professional quarterback, I get a lot of shit. Indecisiveness in the red zone. Most overrated quarterback.
More turnovers than a bake sale!
And I get it. When you're not a fan of something, shitting on it can make you feel good. But what if I told you that now it can do some good too? Let me show you how.
All right, we don't have to play the whole thing.
Yeah. But, you know, it is a great commercial. I highly recommend everybody sees it. It is obviously for a very important cause, which is colon cancer screening. And I love that Dak is having a little fun of it. And it's for a great cause. And I did not realize that I was going to get used in that sense, but I appreciate it. As soon as they put the teal scarf on me, I was like, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, like, you have more turnovers than a bake sale. Was that written or did you improv that?
Off the dome, babe.
Outstanding. Because that's a great effing line right there. And you delivered it.
You throw more picks than a guitar player. That was another one I threw out, but they didn't use that one.
Also solid. You know, we could have gone either way. Those are both, I mean, just so, you know, let's see an AI pull that one together.
Right?
Just
Thank
saying.
you. Thank you.
So I mean, what I love about this commercial is, so right, it is for a really good cause, right? Because the Cologuard product, it is a home testing kit for colorectal cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you know, and it's you know, it's a really important product with like a, you know, the use process is not so pleasant, right? Like you can dress it up all you want, but really you're pooping in a box and you're mailing your poop.
You are pooping in a bucket, essentially. Yeah.
And so they get to, and so like, but they're being humorous about it, like, which I praise them for, right? Because in your commercial, it's funny because like it's Dak Prescott being like, you can poop on my face, or, you know, poop on the Dallas Cowboys logo and you know, protect yourself from cancer at the same time. That's so much better than what this company was doing before. Cause like their old commercials was like old people singing My Way by Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
And like you don't even like, and they're trying to like disguise the fact that the product is about pooping in a box. And in your commercial, they lean into it, which I think is the way to go from a marketing standpoint.
I wholeheartedly agree. That was so much fun. And once again, as actors, we love to do our job. And this is a thing that we love to do and that we get to do. Yelling in public outside the Dallas Cowboys facility at Frisco, Texas, in the open air, banging on a car that I do not own.
So sometimes commercial appearances at Lisa Rock Doc can be like that, where you have extensive screen time, your face is in the shot, you are within 1 second of Dak Prescott appearing on the screen. And sometimes
we were not in the same building.
But I mean, but still, proximity, temporal proximity.
Yes.
The only thing, like if you go back and see the video, the only thing that separated you from Dak Prescott was a animation of a bunch of poop emojis. Now,
perfect.
So, you know, pretty extensive, but I believe you also have an example of a recent commercial you did that was a little less you focused.
Yeah. So like I booked a Verizon commercial, folks. Like, this ain't no slouch. This is a huge brand. And it was in Houston. I live in Dallas. So I drove down. I got a hotel room. There was a fitting day where I got to try on a bunch of clothes and have a cute little makeover montage, which I love. And then the next day was an entire like 10-hour shoot. And then I drove all the way back home. And I am supposed to be an aunt that could not go to the holiday party that is currently being filmed and is talking to them via video chat. And I had filmed an extensive thing on a phone a couple of times. Actually, they needed a couple of takes of it, of me hopping into the screen and saying hi and chatting with the family. I stood in a corner and fed the rest of the family lines so that we could have that back and forth. That was a whole point of conflict in the commercial. It was a story. Great shoot. I didn't know these people, and by the end of it, we felt like a real family. Aww. We worked so hard. We did such good work together, and I'm very excited about the result.
Everyone's always worried about slow internet during holiday get-togethers because everyone's trying to connect at the same time. Can Verizon 5G home internet, powered by the same 5G network as your phone, handle the holiday chaos? I'm Omar, an engineer with Verizon's test force, and I'm here in my hometown of Houston testing the 5G network. That's one fast 5G signal. I'm here with the Garcia family to see how Verizon 5G home powers their entire house. This is the holiday pressure.
That's a gorgeous house.
Ooh, that's streaming great.
Okay, and
Low lag, so anyone can game like a pro.
I think it was talking about me. Hola, mija. Oh, hey.
Video chat, no problem.
Omar.
And there I am.
Wait, stop.
Families connect.
Okay, so I don't even know if the listeners caught that. Lord, can you go back to right before the only discernible appearance that we have of Elisa Rockdock there, which I believe was just like a second of you saying, "Oh, hey."
Can we Zapruder this, please? Thank
Yes.
Hola, mija. Oh, hey.
Video chat, no.
you.
For the radio audience, you're not even pictured there. It's just your
No.
audio saying, "Oh,
and
hey."
and also like in that screenshot right there, unfortunately, see, this is why you have to watch the live show. In that shot where you paused, I am in that room. I am behind Omar's shoulder up against the wall, cheated so that you don't see me in that mirror behind the family, feeding them lines so that we could be carrying on a conversation. I am in that room.
No way.
I am physically in that room right there and then, right now.
And you were saying that when they were shooting your like Zoom video scenes, like you did like costumes, you like, they hair and makeup.
They yep. I did hair and makeup. They curled my hair. They recurled my hair. My hair is already curly. They recurled my hair. I put on an ensemble. We had crafty. We had full on buffet crafty.
There was a rap party.
It was gorgeous. It was a gorgeous experience. 10 hours. I got really good feedback from the director.
Do they? So all right. So when you get, take us behind the scenes here. When you find out that you like got substantially cut from the final version of the commercial, do they like give you a heads up beforehand? Like, does the director call you up, hey, just to let you know you did a really great job, but like we're only going to be able to use this piece? Or do you find out when America does?
I find out when a fellow castmate posts it, super excited, like, oh my God, check out this thing that finally aired, and then tag me in it. And I'm like, oh, hey. Oh, hey. All right.
Oh, no.
But hey, and shouts to agents.
Yeah.
And shouts to my agents and my admins that process the payments. That check did clear, folks. So I ain't complaining. I have a credit and a check.
There you
And
go.
I had a wonderful experience. That was like my first major like on-camera commercial shoot since the Dunkin' Donuts commercial I did like 10 years ago. So I learned a lot. It was one of my favorite experiences ever. So I'm happy that I'm represented in it even a little bit. Because it was just too much fun.
And you nailed the oh hey. We can all just say that with conviction. All right, 30
Sometimes
seconds
you're-
before we go to break. You did book
Yes.
something else, right? Like you were just telling me
Yes.
about this before the show.
Yes. So literally, not only can your life change in 72 hours, but they can often change in less than 12. I had an audition literally this afternoon at 1. I actually got there at 12:45 and was out by 1, and I booked it like 4 hours later.
Hey. Love
So
it.
coming to a movie theater in like the Dallas area near you, maybe.
Love that for you. And if it gets played somewhere, if you get a video of it and you want to bring it in for your next appearance on the show, we'd love to see it
I'm
and
giving
celebrate
you
with
all
you.
of my real fodder.
Love it. All right, let's take a break. We're going to be joined by Professor Alan Jenkins right after this. Don't go anywhere. Keep checking out Break the Business. Ryan Kairalla here. I hope you're enjoying the show, and I hope that you're getting a lot out of it. I do what I do because I care about creators like you. A lot. I've dedicated my career to helping creative professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations move forward. I do it by hosting this program, and I'm also proud to do it in my legal practice. If you're a creative professional looking for solutions-oriented legal services to help you further your goals, I'd love to help. My firm RKPA does contracts, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Visit rkpalaw.com to learn more. That's rkpalaw.com. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to Break the Business, everybody. Ryan Kairalla here with Elisa Rockdock. Let's go ahead and bring out our guest this week. He is a Harvard law professor and acclaimed social justice leader. Our guest has collaborated with New York Times bestselling author Gan Golan on 1/6, a graphic novel series that imagines an alternate history where the January 6th attacks on the Capitol succeeded. Issue 2 of 1/6 is available now, and you can find out more about our guest's work by visiting 16comics.com. We are happy to welcome back Professor Alan Jenkins on to Break the Business. Hi, Professor.
Hey there. Thanks for having me back on.
Excited to have you back on. Now, I promised you last time we had you on the show that I wasn't going to just repeatedly call you professor. I'm going to try to stick to that. But you got to understand, it's the law student in me. It doesn't go away. Like, my intimidation of law professors will never leave me. But I'm gonna see if I can work my way out of it.
I get it. And I think I might have told you last time, a number of my colleagues on the law school faculty were also my professors many years ago. So it's very welcome back, Cotter, for those of you old enough to remember that. Yeah, it's a little weird, but I managed to call them by their first names. So please do the same with me.
I will endeavor to do so. And we're really excited to have you on again. You last came on the show about 11 months ago to talk about the first issue of the 1/6 graphic novel series. And now you've released an issue this month to coincide with the 3rd anniversary of the insurrection attempt. Can you kind of give us some lay out for us what the last year has been like since you've put out these 2 editions?
Wow. Yeah. Well, a lot's happened, right? There've been 4 criminal indictments of former President Trump. Lots of insurrectionists have either pleaded guilty or been convicted of crimes. The January 6th Select Committee, had its hearings and issued its report. We've, for my purposes, along with my co-writer Gan Golan, we've learned a ton, and so we had to keep rewriting issue number 2 because, for your listeners, issue number 1 is set about 9 months after a successful insurrection. Issue number 2 goes back in time to look at the road that got us there. And it's mostly rooted in real events. So it actually begins with the Unite the Right march in Charlottesville that, resulted in the killing of a counter protester and was, neo-Nazis and white supremacists. And you'll remember then President Trump said there were good people on both sides. So we begin with that. And we take our readers through a lot of the real events, but also a lot of the kind of fictional lives of our characters. And we're super clear with the readers about what is rooted in documented facts and what is purely fictional and what's speculative, because we don't want any fake news, right? We want to be super clear about that. But, every time there was some new revelation, Gan and I would have to figure out, do we incorporate this and how? Are we including too many real facts? At one point, our main artist, Will Rosado, said, it's getting to be a little like a lawyer's PowerPoint, I believe is how he described it, which, that was rough, but he was right. And so we had to kind of scale back the factual storytelling and make sure we were giving our characters ample room. So an awful lot has happened since I was last on the show.
Well, let me ask you kind of what your current state of mind is right now. Lisa and I were talking about this a little bit at the beginning of the show. I would imagine that a principal goal of creating a work like this is you want to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. You want to, show people how fragile our democracy can be and how we have to be ever vigilant to protect it. And I feel like despite the work that, you're doing with this novel and despite so many of us trying to be vigilant about protecting our democracy, I don't think we're any closer 11 months later to preventing something like this from happening again. In fact, I see so many signs that, oh my God, we could be heading down this road again. Donald Trump, despite his 91 counts of criminal indictments, is leading in the polls and is likely going to be the nominee for the president of the United States. There are supporters in his party who are saying even if he is convicted of any of these crimes, they will still support him. And so, when you see these kind of things, does it make you feel like, God, what are we doing? This graphic novel, is this graphic novel going to be a warning, or are the 1-6 people going to read your novel and look for tips in it?
Well, it's a terrifying, terrifying moment that we're in for all the reasons that you described. In addition to the fact that far more people, mostly Republicans, now believe that the insurrection was justified, or that it at least was nonviolent and not an insurrection, which of course, we literally saw with our own eyes, the violence, the people who died and were killed that day, the disrespect and spitting on police officers and all of that. And now you see a large segment of the public, a significant segment, actually starting to revise their memories of it. And that's, of course, because you have a pro-Trump echo chamber of social media and news media and the like that are continuing to convey a false narrative on that. So I'm scared. But to your question, Ryan, I really feel very gratified that we decided to do this series because we didn't, we started writing this thing, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. We didn't know where the country would be when subsequent issues came out. And so I'm afraid, but I also feel like it's more needed than it was when we started, in large part because we're reaching a lot of people who were not paying attention or who were undecided or even skeptical about whether our democracy was at risk. And pop culture may be one of the only ways to reach across these lines of difference and demographics and the like. So scared, but gratified and still hopeful.
Does making graphic novels and using the pop culture medium to get your message out, that's got to make you the coolest professor on the Harvard Law campus, right? I don't see Cass Sunstein making graphic novels. Where's Lawrence Lessig's graphic novel? That's all I'm saying.
Well, first of all, it's a low bar, right? To be the coolest Harvard Law School professor, but you actually...
Sunstein's pretty rad, putting that in.
I was about to say, in naming my colleagues, Cass Sunstein and Lawrence Lessig, you actually picked some of the coolest law professors on campus. So I don't know where I rank with them, but a lot of my students are pretty excited about it. I can definitely attest to that.
Have you learned any lessons about, now having put this graphic novel out, we can put you among the ranks of indie creators, the sort of indie creators that we celebrate on this program, that we interview on a regular basis. Have you learned any sort of indie creator lessons, or maybe something happened in the last 11 months since putting this work out that you didn't see coming, that was unexpected for you, that you could share with us?
Yeah, it's a great question. There are little things like figuring out barcodes and dealing with Amazon, which has been more than a notion. This where we've sold the most comic books actually is on Amazon. But also, just my admiration for the people who do this kind of creativity as their main gig, because I would have lost my house by now, long ago, if I were only in the comic book business. It's it's fun. I enjoy it. I'm a comic book guy from way back, but it's a grind. And I've been to 4 Comic-Cons in the last 6 months, and you might get a run on your book, or you might sell 3, and have to wonder whether it was worth the Amtrak tickets. So it's I don't have to tell you all, but it's tough, and I have even more respect now for the creators, especially people, and I'm talking about comic books now, people who are outside of the Marvel and DC system. It's hard enough for artists and creatives who are working within that system. And there's a friend of mine, Joe Illidge, has written a lot about how tough it is for people in that system. But for people who are doing indie work, really challenging. So my hat's off to them, absolutely.
Yep. I'm curious from a media literacy and another reason to be scared, in the sense that more and more your graphic novel may not show up in some of the places that need them the most, like say school libraries. I don't know. So how can we, a collective we, the trio of we, kind of help bring media literacy back? And because I feel like there is a huge lack of context when a lot of things get pulled off library shelves, etc. How can we bring media literacy back and kind of stop maybe some of this sort of panic that's going on, and make sure that some of these stories can still get told?
Yeah, well, thanks for that question, Elisa. A couple things. One is congratulations on the audition, and condolences on Verizon, but I heard you. But to your question, yeah, I mean, the second point is, we actually raised, one of the things we did a Kickstarter, and one of the things we used those funds for was to send free copies of issue 1 and issue 2 to public libraries, to college and university libraries. We sent copies to 180 election deniers in Congress, and to some democracy defenders. But not everybody can do that, right, with their books. And to your point, increasingly you're seeing content banned in school districts and in communities, and it's especially by creators of color and queer creators, and content that covers those communities. And so part of it, and we actually have a free education and action guide that goes with our comic book series, and people can just use the QR code to get it. One of the things it says is, we got to show up, right? We have to support our local librarians. We have to go to school board meetings and city council meetings and town halls, and be part of the conversation there. And to do so with empathy. I think it's fine to get angry and about injustice and censorship, but we need to channel that into productive engagement, and really having some empathy for the people we're trying to persuade. I tell my students that empathy is our superpower. No one ever persuaded another person without first understanding that person. That's a first step, and we often forget about that. So, I think all of those things are important. I think there are also a lot of great organizations that are combating censorship and working for media literacy. One of my favorites is the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. Yes, that exists. And they're doing some cutting edge work on that. So a lot of individual things that we can all do, in addition to voting democracy and truth and equal dignity.
Let's talk about the playbook for the next year, because, oh God, I'm about to hate this sentence. We're in an election year.
Ah!
I mean, look. I love that we live in a democracy, and that's all great. But I feel like we just did one of these, man. Like my muscles still hurt from like doing this 4 years ago. But we're back, baby. As we get closer to this next election, Alan, as you've noted, there is a significant segment of the population that, despite seeing video evidence of what happened on January 6th, incontrovertible video evidence that this was an insurrection attempt, that it was orchestrated by supporters of President Trump, that they will not agree to those things being the case. Like, we can't agree on our own facts and our own truths. How do we mobilize in this election year? How do we not lose hope in this election year so that we can actually create like a socially just and democracy fulfilling outcome in November?
Yeah, well, an important thing about our graphic novel is a lot of it is a story of hope and resistance, of everyday people coming together to address, and restore our democracy while arguing amongst themselves about what that restored democracy should look like. And I think, one of the reasons why we wanted to do that, it's a callback in some ways to the founding of our country. Where the framers, the founding fathers, were arguing about how to beat the British, and they were also arguing about what our Constitution should say, and should we have slavery, and what should it look like. Unfortunately, they made some bad decisions along with the good ones, and so our characters are doing the same. But it also is a reflection on all of us, that we've got to come together to get active, to get organized. This is. This is an election where we're going to have to stand up for democracy and truth and equal justice. And even in those places where we might not be excited about the candidates, right? This is an election that is not just about candidates. It's about the very preservation of our democracy and our ability to improve it and make a more perfect union going forward. Very few of us are completely satisfied with every aspect of our democracy or our society, but we need to continually be able to move forward. And if things go sideways in this election, we're not going to have the ability to do that. And so, that's part of the message. I think we also have to continually keep trying to reach other people. I'll tell you my favorite story coming out of the comic book experience. So as I said, I've been to 4 Comic-Cons. One of them was Baltimore.
Lawrence Lessig's never been to a Comic-Con, just say it.
I wouldn't put it past Larry to have been to a Comic-Con. I'm going to ask him at our next faculty meeting. I'm at Baltimore Comic-Con with the comic book. And a guy comes up to me, he's in his 40s, he looked like, with his son. He had his Baby Yoda backpack. And he said, your book looks great. And, I want to buy a copy. And how'd you come up with this idea? And were you there? And I said, well, I wasn't there, but I interviewed a bunch of people and reporters. And he said, oh, I was there. I said, really? What were you doing there? And he said, well, the president told us to come. So I came.
Oh my God.
And he took out his phone and he started showing me photographs of himself at the insurrection with mayhem behind him, right? And he kept saying, I don't usually tell people this. And I'm thinking like,
with good reason.
We just met, yeah. But he said that he went to the Ellipse and he saw Trump speak, and Trump said that he should head for the that they should all head to the Capitol, and he did that. And he said he saw people breaking into the Capitol and he was going to follow them. And a woman who had come down on the bus with him, another MAGA voter, said, we got kids at home. I don't think we should go in there. I think we're going to get in trouble. And he said kind of the fever broke in terms of breaking into the Capitol, and he didn't do it. And he said, a bunch of people around him subsequently were prosecuted. And he was looking over his shoulder for a year, expecting the FBI to break in. At no point did he say, and I now realize everything I did was wrong.
Oh.
Okay. So, I think he's still, this is my view. He didn't say this. I think he's struggling with, was I fed a bunch of lies, or, was it true? Did I do the right thing? It's very hard to kind of acknowledge even to yourself that maybe you were, completely misled into almost, going to prison. But he and I spent 20 minutes together. And, in what other setting would I have been able to spend 20 minutes talking with an insurrectionist? Civilized conversation, friendly. We talked about each other's kids, and he bought a copy of the book and he left. And then I thought, man, I hope he doesn't read this book before I get out of here, because I don't know, if he really understands what it's about. And about 10 minutes later, he came back and I thought, Rutro, what's going to happen? And he said, can you sign this for me? And I signed it for him and he was off. Right. So the point of of my telling this story is we have to find each other's humanity and, help each other to move back from the brink. I don't know, if my comic book is going to change this guy's worldview, but I have a shot. And I had a shot at him. That's a bad metaphor. I had a fair chance to convince him because of our shared love of pop culture and comic books. And so, we got to find those connections to, I'm not sure that every insurrectionist is persuadable, but we all know people in our lives who, say all kinds of whack stuff. And, let's not give up on them. Let's not scream at them. Let's see if we can find our shared values and bring each other to a better place.
Our guest has been Harvard Law professor Alan Jenkins, author of 1/6, a graphic novel series that imagines an alternate history where the January 6 attacks on the Capitol succeeded. Issue 2 of the graphic novel series is available now, and you can find out more about our guest's work by visiting 16comics.com. Elisa, did you just show off the artwork there? Yeah. That was pretty snazzy. Elisa, you want to give Alan our final question?
Of course. And we ask this to all of our guests. Do you have any last tips for other fellow indie creators out there to help move their careers forward?
Wow. Yeah, I would say, a lot of people are going to tell you can't do it. They might be right. So, listen. But then, once you've thought about it and you've decided that, it's what you need to do, which is, as artists, so many of us feel, then you need to go forward undeterred and, think about the networks that you have. I could never have moved this project forward if I hadn't first reached out to my friend and co-conspirator, Gan Golan, who is a graphic novelist, right? Somebody who knew the business. We could never have succeeded if we hadn't reached out to and paid people who were, handling our social media and handling our press work. And so, it really has taken a village and, we had to be humble about it, right? We had to listen when people told us, hey, I know you want to do it this way, but that's actually not a way that you can get this work done. That's that listening process and kind of not just reaching out to, tell people what they can do for you, but actually listening and figuring out how you can work together. Really, really essential.
Our thanks to Professor Alan Jenkins, Elisa Rockdock. Always thanks to producer Lauren, and thanks to all you viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. We'll see you next week.